Hello, I'm in the blue room and I have my media notebook, which means we're going to talk about some media. Fantastic Planet circa 1973, and I watched the vintage video podcast on it on YouTube, and you should too if you're intrigued or you feel like this was not informational, because I'm not claiming this to be informational. This is my brain dump on what I thought of the movie on both of my watches. I watched Fantastic Planet recently twice, and there is a English dubbed for free on YouTube, and then there's the original French one on Max with the subtitles, and I watched the original French one with the subtitles twice. So in my media notes after the first watch, which I will give a little bit of preface, the Fantastic Planet is basically we're on this planet called Yam, and only one other planet orbits this planet Yam. I've seen some people talk about it as like a moon, but they don't really refer to it as a moon. They only refer to it as a planet. I'm thinking this is a planet and this is somebody's imagination, so I don't really care if it's a moon. And there are these aliens called Drogs, and they're humongous, they're blue, and they have bright red eyes, and they're honestly weird compared to us, but in a good way. It's cool. They keep humans as pets and they call them ohms, and there's tame ohms, which are the ones that live in their house and they dress them up and make them do tricks, and then there's wild ohms that just escape or reproduce out in wherever. High councilman, because there's like a council for their government, the high councilman's daughter takes in this baby ohm named Tear, or she names him Tear, and he learns, like, they have these info things, like this headband thing, and the Drogs put the headband thing on to learn. Like, it's basically like school, but it like puts the information right in their brain and then it's like permanent. Well, Tara was getting the information as well because he has this like collar thing that Tiva, the daughter of the councilman, she put that on him, or her father put it on him. And basically it's like an electric collar for the humans, but it's like the connection with the information headset and his collar, link, and he would get the information as well. So he got really smart and he runs away and he joins the wild ohms, and then the wild ohms are like, we have to get off this planet, we need to go on the Fantastic Planet, which is that planet I'm referring to that was orbiting Yam. Yes, like, we need to go, we need to just get off of Yam because the Drogs are trying to like exterminate them because they're reproducing fast. This is where I'm gonna stop and talk about the notes that I had. So I enjoyed the time difference that the Drogs have compared to the humans. So humans have a way shorter lifespan, but they reproduce way faster than the Drogs, and the Drogs live super long and don't reproduce as fast. Now, my question was, how do the Drogs reproduce? The Drogs themselves explicitly say in the movie, well, humans reproduce at humans, oh my gosh, I need to stop. Ohms reproduce at an alarming rate compared to us, la la la. That means that they reproduce slow. How are they reproducing? Because that I do not believe in my two watches and informational podcast. Do not believe that it was explicitly said in the movie. But we'll keep going. Also wondered why at the very end when the ohms and the Drogs come to their solution, the solution was there's an artificial planet including the Fantastic Planet. So there's a Fantastic Planet, and basically the Drogs go do this meditation thing, and their consciousness almost goes into like this bubble, and it goes onto that planet that's orbiting, which is the Fantastic Planet, and there's like these physical bodies there, and during meditation other beings, and I don't know if other species, but other beings, maybe other Drogs, they also meditate, and the bubbles go on these bodies and they're able to like physically connect and dance. In the movie they dance, but I wonder what else they do. On that planet, it's really important for them because according to Tear, our little pet ohm that got all this information, that meditation gives them I think according to Tear, or her father might have said that. See, don't quote me. According to Tear and or Tiva's father, the meditation gives the Drogs the energy they need to survive and sustain their species. So then I'm wondering, because it didn't look like reproduction was was happening, but we'll get more into that in a minute because I have more questions. At the end, when the artificial planet is already around, the Ohms and the Jogs have come to a solution on, you know, basically being separate and not bothering each other. At the end, there's another child Jog getting an info with the little headband we mentioned, and she puts it in his hand and she starts like petting him and listening to the info. And I'm thinking in my head, like, but I thought, why is there still, did Ohms still want to be tamed? Like, what does that even mean? I'm gonna stop there. Next question, or not, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a question. Oh, next point was I really, really, really loved Tiva. I thought, she's just a girl, dude. She's just a girl. She was a girl. We watched her grow up a little bit. Although she was not wonderful to Tear at all times, he was like her little pet, like gerbil, and she was unsupervised with him often. So I really loved Tiva, though. She really loved Tear. I enjoyed her character, and it seemed like Tiva did not understand, and probably because she's like a child still, but she did not understand exactly what her father was doing all the time in regards to the meditation situation. And this one other thing that I didn't fully get, I don't know if you're fully supposed to get it because these are just different beings. So there's a scene where Tear, he like, I don't know, he runs away and she can't find him for a little bit, and he sees her father and the other councilman, and there's this like black squiggly thing, and basically their bodies morph and phase into each other, and they're doing all this weird stuff, right? And when Tiva gets Tear, and her dad kind of gets mad at her and is like, come on, like, you know, like, get your own in check. But Tiva's face is like, in the back of her mind, she's like, what the fuck were y'all doing? So I'm like, I wonder why she didn't understand. It made me kind of think that maybe her father was doing something bad, but we'll get to that also in a second. Okay, so I'm looking at my notes. I have a lot of them. I just kind of, I intuitively write my media notes. That's why this is a little bit chaotic. So then I put my update. And this is where, when I kept saying, oh, I'll get to that, it's because all those questions and concerns I had were off my first watch, which wasn't great because my internet wasn't great. So, update after watching it for the second time and watching the podcast. So, really shout out to that vintage video podcast. I really fight with that. I liked the way they did the podcast. I liked the way the commentary was. And I even have something funny to mention from them. So after watching the podcast and the movie again, apparently Tiva's dad is the highest in the, like, he's the highest councilman in that part of their government, in that part of Yom, the planet. So, because I didn't understand that yet, because I was just like, is he the most important or what? And he speaks out often about underestimating the Ohms, and that it's not a good idea to just try to kill them all because, you know, that just sounds strange, I guess. The Jogs see the Ohms as just like pests, like, ugh, like untamed. They're just nasty and they do too much and they procreate too fast. So the black squiggly phasing, unphasing thing is still unknown, okay? In the podcast, I do like how they described how it looks to humans, or maybe Tear, the little Ohm, how it would probably look like what our pets see when they see us watching TV, or like doing random things that they're just not gonna do, and they probably don't understand it, and they're like, oh, I don't know why they're doing that. That's weird, but okay. They compared that to basically the councilman with the squiggly thing and their bodies phasing and unphasing. What I am still confused about is, why did Tiva look at her dad so like suspicious about it? Like she was like, I don't know what y'all are doing. That was weird. Because her dad was scolding her, but her face looked like she was suspicious. She was like, yeah, that's the least of my worries after what I just saw. But like I said earlier, she is young, so I'm like, maybe she just wasn't hip on that yet. Maybe she hasn't had an info on that yet. So the black squiggly thing situation, the body's phasing, unphasing, still unknown. I want to mention the funny thing Like the funny comment in the vintage video podcast. It's like a tongue twister. Vintage video podcast, vintage video podcast, vintage video podcast. When the ohms are rebelling and doing the most, and the jogs are like, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, like they know how to read now, like because the jogs have markings basically, and Tara taught them how to read the markings because he was getting all those infos. So they're like, they're reading markings, like they're getting hella advanced, like what is going on, right? They have so many meetings in this movie. For how short, I guess, this movie is, they have a lot of meetings. And they're all talking about the ohms. Every meeting, the main conversation is the ohms and what they're doing, and maybe they should stop them or maybe they should exterminate them more often. The girls in the I think she's the only girl in the podcast. She was like, by the way, if you think our government, like our government here, is slow to take action, she was like, these drugs were so slow to take action. I was like, in fact, you are right, because they waited so long. They're so intelligent, and I'm like, they waited so long. But I think that was also kind of like a parallel to how if we see something that we think is so inferior to us, we're not even worried about it like like destroying us. We're like,
that thing is gonna destroy me? No way.
But in fact, they did not have it. They were on the planet. They made it to the planet, I guess, and they started zapping the artificial bodies on the Fantastic Planet while they were communing in their bubbles. And when they did that, the drogs on Yam like were basically like blinded, and we're like, which is something else I don't understand. I don't exactly understand where they blind, like, because at first I was like, oh, they're killing them. Like, I was like, okay, ohms, like y'all are really taking them down. But no, I think they were just blinding them, and I think they just were like walking, like trying to find their, I don't even know, not trying to find the bubble, because the bubble's lost. See how I don't know? They were like, basically, like when they zapped them on the planet, the drog on the Yam who was meditating, if their body, artificial body from the Fantastic Planet got zapped, they were like basically like, oh fuck. So I mean, that's disturbing enough regardless if they were blinded forever or not. But, and so when this happened, like this was so late, like they had been talking about what they were gonna do about the ohms. Tiva's dad had already been, Master Sin, I think his name is, he already had been like, bro, let's stop trying to exterminate them so hard. Like, I don't know what we should do, but I think we're underestimating them. Finally, it wasn't until the situation, they were like, fuck, the ohms, they're so much more intelligent. They got us. So they were pretty late, honestly. So that was actually pretty funny that she was like, these drogs, like, they are slow. Thinking on it, they were very slow to take effective, intelligent action on the ohms overpopulating and, you know, going against them. But on my own observation, I liked how the viewer, and I'm looking at my notes because they're honestly everywhere, but I liked how the viewer was also supposed to be learning from the infos. So every time Tiva puts her info on and it shows like the information like going in her brain, you hear the information. Like, it's telling you information about the planet, about things important to drugs, how ohms are, the seasons on the planet. It's informing the viewer as well. So basically, you need to be paying as much attention as Tiva is. Well, not that she needs to be paying attention because the information goes like straight to her brain, but you need to be as locked in as Tiva and Tara are, while these infos are playing. Because if you're kind of like half listening to the infos, or you think they're not that important, as the movie goes on, you will be more confused than anything. Important things I talked about were like the names of the planet, what the planets were for, in the orbiting system they had going on, and seasons. Like, I missed a lot of that in my first watch, and so I was a little bit confused, and it makes the movie so much more linear if you really pay attention to that. Because when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, I get it. Or I would see something like happening in their ecosystem, like environment, and I'd be like, oh, the info taught me that, I know what that is. So that was very cool. Like, you got to like use the knowledge you learned with Tiva to help you understand the planet as the movie goes on and shows you, well, what the environment of the planet is like. I found that very interesting. I really liked that. And basically, it was like joint learning between the character and the viewer. So like, because we're just as oblivious as almost Tiva is, because she's learning, she's like still a little girl, because then we see her grow into a teenager, and basically that's when Tara runs away, because when she's becoming a teenager and getting older and more grown, she doesn't want to play with Tara as much, because she doesn't want to play with the toys. Tara's like a toy, almost like a pet, because then she has like little clothes, dresses him in and things like that, and as she gets older, she just, you know, her interests change, and so Tara's getting a little bit neglected, and Tara leaves because he's smart as fuck now after listening to all these infos with Tiva. So I thought that was very cool, the joint learning between the character and the viewer, and seeing Tiva grow up, because I really liked Tifa's character. She was just so cutesy. She was just a girl. She was a girl with her pet. Come on. Come on. Come on. Who doesn't like a girl with their pet? Come on. I'm gonna answer some of my questions that I had. Although it was not explicitly stated in the movie, as I said earlier, Tara said that the orbs on the Fantastic Planet, which is basically when the Drogs would meditate, doing that meditation thing with the artificial bodies and interacting with other beings, it does not explicitly say reproduce though. But I'm thinking, because off watching the vintage video podcast, off watching that, they also talked about that, and I was like, oh, thank God,
Because I'm wondering the same.
they basically said in the podcast that it's like reproduction, but it's not like it was a very ambiguous answer, honestly, because it's like they cannot survive without doing that, I guess. Maybe it's because they live so long, and because other places to maybe other dogs or other species is so far away, or it just doesn't make sense for them all to live on the one planet, because honestly, who knows how big this planet is. They really need it to survive, and I'm wondering if that's part of their reproduction process. But with that being said, what makes me wonder is about Tiva's parents, because Masterson and Tiva's mom, which is seen in the movie, they're together. They basically live together, and they live with Tiva, and they take care of Tiva. Are they reproducing on these other planets with these other beings or other types of drogs? Because if so, then when they reproduce, does one of them have to go live on the same planet? What's happening? Because the way Tiva's parents are set up, it kind of looks like, you know, like they met each other and they reproduced. Somehow the Drogs reproduce on that planet and had Tiva somehow. But maybe that's not how it works, and maybe that reproduction situation happens on that planet. Or maybe me being a human, I'm thinking about reproduction too simply, and maybe it's way more complicated and deep for the Drogs, for all we know. I don't know. That was an open-ended question. I'm not sure. Why? See, I wrote here, is the reproduction happening through these meetings with the other Drogs or life forms from different planets? Why else would they need those artificial bodies on the Fantastic Planet to physically interact with other beings? Why would they need to do that, other than the need for survival, which would be reproducing? Why would they need to do that, other than maybe to have fun? Because in the movie they're dancing, which seems fun, and it seems like they're interacting. Is that a need though for survival? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they needed the artificial bodies for that, because they might do the reproduction situation through the brain, not really the bodies, but the bodies are just the way the brains can interact with the orbs. Honestly, I would love to talk to the creators. I would love to talk to them because I have so many questions. If you watch the vintage video podcast, they did say that the production was cut short because of financial issues, so the ending got rushed, because there was like 5 or 10 more scenes that they were gonna do, but it got wrapped up super quick because they didn't have enough money, I guess, to finish the production of the movie to their desired end. I love it. I think that's what makes this movie so intriguing is all the open-ended questions. It's so far off. So you're like, okay, I'm thinking of this like in terms of like how I live my human life or what I deem to be extraterrestrial. But it could get so much more complicated and niche to their species than we can think. And then the ending got rushed, so who knows. Back on the topic of reproduction, in the vintage video podcast, somebody on the podcast did say that the reproduction could be slower because of the dog's size. They're so huge, which I thought was interesting. I mean, I didn't really have any extra thoughts on that because it's just like, honestly, it's just food for thought with everything else going on in this movie. But I'm just like, maybe size does have to do with this, because still those artificial bodies on the Fantastic Planet were huge compared to the Ohm. So back to that Ohm that at the very end of the movie with the other child dog, and I was like, I said that, everybody came to a truce and the Ohms do what they do. I think they help the Drogs some type of like intergalactic way. At the end, they're supposed to, I'm assuming there's no more tame Ohms, because who would want to be a tame Ohm when there's a free planet for Ohms to thrive at? But I see this Ohm climbing on this other child Drog's hand who's not Tiva, so I'm like, okay, just a little bit in the future after the truce happens. I'm like, why? Off my second watch, see, here we go. Off my second watch, I realized that it morphs, the Ohm morphs into this crocodile-looking creature that is probably just a creature that they, or like animal that they have in their ecosystem. But it morphs into that almost to show like that what would have usually been a pet Ohm to accompany this child Drog has now been switched out for a different animal, a different species on the planet Yam. And so basically, without saying it, being like, yeah, they, out of respect, they don't keep tame Ohms anymore, and they have come up with other solutions for having a pet, which I thought that was really cool too, because you don't notice, because at first, if you're just literally this movie, if you look away, like literally if you go and you look back, you don't even know what just happened. You missed vital information. You'll be like, wait, but you'll watch the whole thing and be like, wait, what just happened? Literally, my second watch, I watched it with my mom, my sister, and my sister's boyfriend. My sister's boyfriend came out from the bathroom and he was like, so tell me like real quick what happened. Dude, you cannot tell somebody real quick what happened in this movie. That's why I started it with a disclaimer, because I was like, bro, I'm not gonna break this movie down. You may be more confused after watching this video, because I'm gonna talk about my notes, but there's like, it's a dense movie for the length of the movie. It's very dense. I thought that was interesting though at the end with the pet crocodile looking thing. Back to Tiva. I love Tiva. And in the podcast that I watched, they did express feelings of wanting more closure for what happened to Tiva. When I say what happened to Tiva, nothing necessarily happens to Tiva. It's just, well, we don't even see, but I'm not assuming anything happens to her necessarily. It's just that the last we see of Tiva is when Tara runs away and she's with her mom, and her mom's like, turn your little thing, your collar, your electric collar, like on blast, bring that ass back, because her headset was missing, her info headset, because he took it with him. And her mom was like, put that shit on blast. And Tiva was like, thinking about it, she was like, no, because it's gonna hurt him, because she loves Tara. She loves Tara, bro. That's the last we see of her. And then we see Tara fly backwards in the forest, assuming, as the podcast said, assuming that one of her parents took the shit away from her and put it on blast. This other wild female Ohm like cuts the collar off for him, so it's not an issue anymore. And we never see Tiva again. Like Tara, we see Tara grow up like a lot. Like they start making rockets and shit. That's how they got into the Fantastic Planet and saw what the fuck the drags be doing. We never see Tiva again. We never hear from her. I almost was hoping at the end that was like Tiva listening to her info, but that wouldn't even make sense because she would be older. Because she was already done with her infos, I think, because what is that called? Initiation to start meditating also and doing the ritual on the Fantastic Planet. So I'm assuming like she didn't really need any more infos maybe. but we never see anything else from her. We never get any closure on how she felt about losing Tear, if she got in trouble. Like, what happened to my girl Tiva? I'm concerned for her. I want to know. I care about her feelings. But understandably, I am not that upset because it was rushed for financial reasons. So my heart goes out for the unfinished ending. I would pay a ghastly amount of money or give one of my thumbs up to see the couple of frames they had planned that they didn't get to put in the movie, just because maybe, because they said this on the podcast as well, that maybe the Tiva closure would have been in those couple of frames, or the stuff that they couldn't afford to keep putting in, finish the movie with. Maybe that was in the last couple clips and we didn't get that. So something I would like to say about something that the podcast mentioned was their underestimation of the ohms was a little bit strange, only because there was nothing very crazy different about ohms, like the species of ohms and the species of drugs, other than the size difference. Like, for example, dogs and other animals like are very different from us, like physically though. Drugs were not very different than ohms. I mean, like, they didn't have any eyelids and they were different color and stuff, but they had arms and legs and they moved and they walked around and they had a face basically, and ohms did too. They were just a little bit different. So I'm just like, I agree with who said that in the podcast, because I'm just like, you're right, they are very similar. Oh my god, they are very similar. Well, what did the drugs think was stopping them from prospering? I don't know. I really enjoyed the art. I really enjoyed the story, honestly. I thought it was interesting storytelling, and I thought even though the ending was rushed, it was still good. Like, it made you want to rewatch it because you're just like, oh shit, it ended. Fuck. Like, what the fuck did I miss? And what do I need to pay attention to next time? The art style, a lot of people like this art style, but it's very comforting in an eerie way, and I love that, because I feel like media nowadays, especially visual media, I needed to bring some water, holy fuck. I understand, okay, we're going up in the world, okay, there's more pixels to go around, and everything's in HD, bright, crispy ass quality, and honestly it hurts my fucking eyes. It hurts my fucking eyes. I can't look at it for that long. It's too fucking bright, it's too crispy, and I like things that are easy on the eyes, like MTV Downtown, easy on the eyes. Oh, Coraline, easy on the eyes. And honestly, almost anything stop motion is pretty easy on the eyes. Wallace and Gromit's easy on the eyes. This was pretty easy on the eyes. And the soundtrack, oh my god.
Oh my god.
I wish I had a little flute to go like doo 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 doo, because that soundtrack was so good. I liked it. I loved it. And I heard and saw people talking about like all these people who have attempted or did sample music from Fantastic Planet. I see why. I'm not even a hater. I understand. It was so good. I wonder who was in charge of the soundtrack. I should look that up as well. Check if I have any more notes. I like how it ended, honestly. I don't mind the rushed ending, other than I feel like we were starved from Tia's. I was wishing the best for her. I hope her meditations go great. As well as I would have been intrigued to see what Tear thought of Tiva, because Tiva did love Tear. You know, I'm not sure how much Tear loved Tiva, because he was Tiva's pet. He got a little bit neglected. Sometimes she would do fuck shit to him. You know, I wonder what Tear thought about Tiva, because then he becomes this like huge leader. He goes on, he goes on his like heroin, adventure, and finds himself, and they call the new planet Terra in honor of him. So I'm just like, I would have loved to see more of what Tara was thinking, what Tiva was thinking. But I also get that this movie was probably supposed to be exactly how I'm feeling about it, which is a bit confused, very thought-provoking. It's more of like, what do you think is going on in this imaginative world? So then you have to use your imagination, kind of like how I was trying to use my imagination earlier on how they reproduce. I loved it, and it was a great addition to my media notebook. The next book I could probably say, or that wasn't a book, but the upcoming book is Interview with a Vampire. I do have some movies that I'm very intrigued to see. I'll see if I can, if there'll be good additions to the media notebook. So that's all I had to say about the Fantastic Planet. Love the art, love the music. I thought the way, even though it was not supposed to be that rushed, I thought the way it was wrapped up and everything, unique, honestly. I mean, it just kind of ended, and it was just like, wow, everything is well, I guess. But you know, there's always issues in civilization and like recolonization on a different planet, although that different planet is an artificial planet. But I love it. I would love to have a Tiva toy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. At this age, I would love a Tiva toy. Ooh, a handmade Tiva doll. I would love that. What about a Tiva Blythe doll?
A Tiva Blythe doll.
That would be so good. I would love that, actually. I'd probably cry. Now obsessed with Tiva. It probably will be for the next forever. And that's cool, because she was cool as fuck. Might be here for Halloween. Anyway, that was a great addition to my media notebook and to my media series. And I am going to go and probably eat something, and then I'm gonna go outside because it is a little bit rainy and I like it. Anyway, thank you for watching if you did. I hope I made sense, and hello Lisi, I know you're rewatching this.